So let me take you on a little journey. A couple of months ago, I was in the UK completing my final exams and finishing off the last few UK based placements I had before I flew all the way from the UK to India to complete the first half of my medical elective, which is basically a placement abroad. After 3 weeks there, I caught another flight. This one was from India all the way to Vietnam. India is my home country, but this was my first time in Vietnam. So I started by spending the first week traveling over here, exploring the different sites. And that brings us to today, when I'm headed from the beautiful city of Da Nang to my ultimate destination of Hue to carry out my last leg of my medical school journey in Vietnam. After a long 2-hour drive, I finally arrived at the Work the World house where I'd be staying while I attended 3 weeks of placement here in Hue. The lovely staff welcomed me and had even prepared lunch for me after my long journey and then showed me to my room. So I've just made it into my room in the house, so let me give you a little tour quickly. This is going to be my abode for the next 3 weeks. I then unpacked and then headed out with some of the other new students to just have a look around the city and to do some shopping in preparation for my first day tomorrow. So day one was an induction day and it started out with the hospital orientation. So we began the day by heading out to the hospital, which was not too far from the house. We were introduced to all the important locations around that would be relevant to us in the coming weeks, and we were explained the basics of the Vietnamese healthcare system. After finishing up at the hospital, it was time for the city orientation, which involved visiting useful locations around, and we even got a bit of a cultural tour with some food and drink. After getting back to the house, I headed out for some coffee because the coffee here in Vietnam is unparalleled, especially the salted coffee. And then I got back to the house and did some work before our language lesson, in which we learned some basic Vietnamese and then finished the day off with dinner. So then it was time for my first day of actual hospital placement in Vietnam. And for my first week, I was prepared to be in the radiology department. So I put on my scrubs and grabbed a quick breakfast before setting off for the hospital. So my first morning was spent in the X-ray department, looking at a number of different images, understanding patient positioning from a radiography perspective, and having a go at interpreting some of the X-rays as well. The amazing thing about this placement is that after completing my morning, I headed home and grabbed another amazing coffee and then headed straight into the pool. I mean, how many med students in the UK or anywhere can say they go for a swim on their lunch break? After lunch, I headed back into the hospital for a busy afternoon. This afternoon, I was in DSA, which is basically interventional radiology, where I saw one complicated case. I then had some teaching on abdominal ultrasounds, which was incredibly useful, and the doctor was so nice. By the time we finished up, it was 6:45 in the evening, but that was my first day sorted. Over the rest of the week, I attended more placements in radiology, including some more interventional radiology, and then some CT and MRI as well, which is particularly useful because I don't have too much exposure to it. So I learned how the machines work, how the scans are carried out, as well as how to look at the scans and how to interpret them, the anatomy, things like that. And then outside clinical time, we had lots of interesting activities. For example, this cooking class in which we made some shrimp cakes, I think, which were looked simple, but they were really tasty. And then one evening, all the students in the house went and rented a dragon boat together and went out for an hour and a half long river cruise along the Perfume River in the middle of Hue, which was beautiful. We took in some of the amazing views, the sunset, and then even made a stop at the Vietnamese pagoda. Every Thursday in the house is barbecue night, so we had some amazing food, and then we had some karaoke and had a chance to enjoy with the staff as well. And then finally on the weekend, we had the chance to explore the rest of Hue City, including the Imperial City as well as the beach, and that wrapped up a wonderful first week as a medical student in Vietnam.